absolutely game-changing patch note just landed in the official Rise of Kingdoms in-game forum, and we have to talk about it. Next week, we're getting Halloween stuff, we're getting formation system hitting the game, and we're also going to get a new KvK format. So let's get rolling. Hello, my friends, and welcome back. I'm Chisgule Gaming, and this is landing next week in game. This is so soon. The Halloween update we were sort of expecting, and there's a bunch of events we've seen before. You've seen Esmeralda's Prayer, Esmeralda's Treasure, Ceroli Assault, and the Race Against Time. There's probably going to be a recharge event, an Epic City theme, and maybe a 7K gem event. And if any of those events are things you're not familiar with, I'll have a card or two up in the top, and at the end of this video, you can check out to get acquainted. But the thing we really need to talk about is the formation system. And if you are subscribed to the channel already, then you already knew formations were coming to the game, because I released a video about this as soon as they made information about this available to us. So you're already in the know if you're subscribed. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. I'm going to read through the formation system, and then I will give you the short summary of how I understand this to work. Formations are being added. 7 new formations are included in this update. Governors can assign specific formations to a commander in combat, each conferring unique battle performance bonuses and added strategic depth. On top of that, there are armaments. We've also released 28 unique armaments that can be equipped to various formations. Each type is imbued with a set of randomized attribute buffs upon acquisition, with a chance of an inscription buff for epic and legendary armaments, an even stronger boost. There are nearly 100 different types of inscriptions available, each of which will enliven combat or place more strategic options at your fingertips. Now, there's also a recycling option. Good for the environment. Governors have the option of recycling excess armaments at the courier station for gold and silver coins, which can be used in turn to purchase armament chests and supplies containing inscriptions. Remember, inscriptions are what you put on there to get some extra boost. Now, inscribing. Governors have the option of inscribing new inscriptions into armaments to vary their inscription buffs. And there's even a new building. We've added the State Forum. Unlocking the State Forum will enable formations. And the State Forum is also where governors can go to travel and accept dispatch quests. Simply complete the quest alongside the desired commander to gain more armaments and great rewards. Wow. Let me tell you what I just told you. Okay, I'm going to unpack it. There are 7 formations. They give you different buffs in combat. You're going to equip a formation to your march, probably when it leaves your city or in your preset. Okay, that part we understand. This part is already sort of available in the Power Up Heroic Anthem, where you get certain buffs with certain formations, which could make sense if you want marches to perform certain ways. Okay, I'm with you so far. But then there are armaments. The armaments are like equipment for each of your formations. So now, if you have a bunch of armaments on your formation, you can make it much stronger. So you get better at doing certain formations, is the way I would think about that. Now, these armaments, there's 28 of them, okay? And they have different random buffs associated with them, including, it sounds like one of those buffs you can control. That is the inscription buff. Let me give you an example to make this a little more concrete here. Let's name one of these armaments, right? Because there's 28 different unique armaments. So we'll just call it the circle armament. If you get the circle armament, it always has health, okay? And in addition, there are some random attributes. So if you get a circle armament, I'm just making this up for illustration purposes, it might have health as the guaranteed stat. I assume that's what makes it sort of unique. And then there are some random stats underneath it. Now, what makes it unique could be the combination of random stats you get. Maybe they're all attack related or defense related or whatever. But there is probably something about the armament that makes it unique, and then some number of random stats, okay? And then there is an inscription stat. Now, it sounds like there are 100 different types of inscriptions, and the only ones that come with an inscription buff, it seems, are epic and legendary armaments. Now, this tells us that there are rarities to armaments, by the way, and I don't know if you can add an inscription to lower rarity armaments or not, but it sounds like one of the big things we're going to be doing is getting inscription materials to put the inscriptions we want onto our armaments, okay? So again, think of it like equipment, but like different randomized buffs, and then one buff you can control, maybe multiple buffs, with an inscription boost over here. And a big part of the way that you go and you get these things, presumably, is in this new building called the State Forum, where it sounds like you send your commander out on quests. Now, I don't know if you can use the commander while he's out on a quest, or if he's just completely locked up. I don't know if these are time-based quests, or if these are things that you need to actively go and do. But it could be that they're things that you need to go and do. It says the State Forum is where governors can go to travel and accept dispatch quests. Simply complete the quests alongside the desired commander. So it sounds to me like you commit a commander to do this quest. I don't know if you can use them for other things while they're there. And then you also maybe do other things like train some number of troops or, I don't know, gather some number of resources in order to get armaments and other great rewards. There's obviously a couple things that I worry about with a system like this. One of them is that there's probably going to be a lot of randomness. So for example, how many random modifiers are there for each armament? And how many modifiers do we get control of? I mean, you could end up with a legendary item that might suck. Is that true? I don't know. Or you could get really lucky and just like shoot the moon, which is, I think, what some people really like about these sorts of systems. I will reserve my judgment for now as to the funness of this system until we actually see how it works in game. But the thing that I worry about a little bit is how much this opens up the gap between free to play and pay to win. And I don't know, but I want to say that obviously this could represent a pretty significant widening between free to play and pay to win. And I actually worry about if there's a formation for rallying and a formation for garrisoning and a formation for field fighting, and I want to use different formations. Am I just going to be sitting there all day, like swapping my armaments around? Like I already have to move equipment around, and that's already kind of a pain, even though there are presets, because like I got to move, one piece off of one march and put it on another. And like I've tried to minimize that by making it so I can swap whole sets, but without going into all the details here, okay? As soon as this lands in game, I'm going to give a really thorough review. Is there anything you can do to prepare for this now? I don't think so. I think there is a chance that maybe having more expertise commanders could suddenly be valuable. It all depends on whether or not certain quests require certain commanders, and if they require certain commanders to be expertise or not. All of this stuff I'm just pulling from thin air, so I'm going to pump the brakes on my speculation and just say there's a lot that's going to change next week when this drops. And I will live stream, and I will also make videos. So subscribe if you haven't already. I'm going to cover the heck out of it. We're going to explore this system completely. Let's go to the next item here. The new Season of Conquest story, King of the Nile, Pioneer event. So I am very happy to see new KvK formats. We need these. This is the bread and butter of the game. I will tell you right now that as a kingdom, 254, at least some of the leadership anyways, has expressed the fact that Strife of the Eight is the only KvK format where you can get continuous fighting, which is exactly what we want. So as a kingdom, we kind of feel like we need new KvKs that have more prolonged fighting. Let's see if this gives it to us. With the death of King of Osiris, and the Holy Scepter will soon fall into the hands of the mighty King Seth. But Horus, god of the sky and son of Osiris, leads his brave warriors into battle to thwart Seth's designs. Reiterating his rights to succession, Horus hopes to carry out the glorious rule of the Age of Osiris, but Seth's followers stand in his way, vowing to defend against Seth's claim to the throne. Who will become the king of ancient Egypt and take their place in history? Kingdoms participating in the Season of Conquest now have the opportunity to pioneer this new story, King of the Nile. Governors will be battling for your camp's glory by the banks of the ancient Nile River, experience a new matchmaking system, seasonal strategies, and new twists in King of the Nile. So let's talk about this. There's a new camp mode. Governors battle to destroy enemy holy sites in one of two camps, Camp Seth and Camp Horus, which will emerge as the King of the Nile. This feels a lot like light versus darkness. There's the light camp and the dark camp, but let's keep going. Team matchmaking. We added new rules around free team-ups. When signing up for the matchmaking phase, kingdoms participating in this story can now be assigned to a specific kingdom class, allowing the formation of their own unique team. So, I mean, it feels like there's advantage to being a really good kingdom within your tier of kingdom. We've seen this before, okay, in KvK Season 3, Light and Darkness. Now, seasonal strategies. We've added new seasonal strategies feature. Governors can choose to enhance one of 3 distinct categories of strategies, boosting battlefield performance, mapping army strength, or supporting logistics. This, to me, is very worrisome. I worry if I have to decide between being a field fighter, being a rally lead, or being a garrison captain. I don't yet know how it works. So we'll see how that seasonal strategy things works out. But just like how I explained with the armaments that I'm like worried that I need to have something like special for rallying and garrisoning, and when I'm put it to the rally and garrison formation, maybe my field formation sucks. I just kind of worry if I have to over optimize here that I can't play all the things I want to play in the game, that I have to focus too much. I guess we'll see. New map. We've added a new Lost Kingdom map and terrain for governors, Valiant New Epics. Look, new epics in this case is referencing like big stories. That's what they mean by new epics. They're not referring to like a rarity of thing in this case. But the new map, what it needs to have is lots of large open spaces that we can test. Okay. And they don't even need to be that large per se, but we need to not have tons of people in tiny little areas that turn into lag fests. That's what needs to happen. And we need to have not situations where like you have 500 years to build up forts on forts on forts next to a pass, and then the pass opens and like you burn the fort and then have to sit there for an hour. Like, we need wide open spaces to go and contest and that are very fun. And it needs to not last like 5 minutes. It needs to be ideally prolonged fighting spread in multiple places. That's what I'm looking for in a new KvK map. I think picking the kingdom you work with is very cool. We've seen that be cool before. And we've even seen betrayals happen. And by the way, if you want to see the most insane betrayal for team matchmaking, I'll have a card up in the top for that drama video. It was completely insane. The betrayals that can take place even with teams and kingdoms that you've already chosen is astronomical. So I think all of this could be really cool. My overall feeling about this patch is that I hope that things are not over-tuned, such that, sure, you can specialize to be a rally lead or a garrison captain or a field fighter, but now you can't do all the things you want to do. I don't know. I feel like there probably are going to be some very specific armaments that are like designed for rallied army damage or garrison damage. I mean, to have 100 different types of inscriptions available, let's just think about all the different things that you could have in an inscription, right? And I'm just going to rattle off a bunch of stuff, but you could have attack percent, defense percent, health percent. You could have base attack, base defense. You could have base health. You could have normal attack damage boost. You could have counter attack damage boost. You could have skill damage boost. You could have active skill damage dealt. You could have an additional instant proc that has a chance to trigger. I mean, it could be an ability. The inscription could be an ability. You could have damage dealt. You could have damage reduction. You could have healing done. Okay. You could have, I think I mentioned skill damage done. Like, there are so many things that you could put on an inscription. And I've only named 10 things or 12 things so far. And we're talking about 100 different inscriptions. You could have bonuses when you're surrounded. You could have a chance to trigger your active skill again. I mean, there are so many different things. You could have rage generated when you're attacked. You could have rage generated when you attack something. You could have rage generated when you use an active skill. You could have an inscription that does healing when you use an active skill. You could have an inscription that does triggered healing randomly. I don't know. I'm just, right? Like, these are all things that could be added into inscriptions, but 100 different inscriptions. I'm trying to think of like what else there could be. Oh yeah, you could have march speed. March speed is a big one. You could have increased damage when you're hitting a garrison, reduced damage when you're hitting a garrison. You could have troop capacity. Troop capacity could be a big one. You could have damage when you're hitting cities. You could have, I think I mentioned rallied army damage already. Ooh, you could have shielding effects. I forgot about shielding effects. That's a thing that could be on an inscription, potentially. I don't know if they're abilities or they're just stats, but like to get to 100 things is actually pretty tricky. I don't know if I mentioned march speed. Yes. Okay, garrison and watchtower attack is probably in there. That's probably a bonus. Triggered rage gain. There could be triggered attack, triggered defense, triggered health. Those are all things that could be in there. Oh my God. Oh yeah. There could be an inscription that gives the formation. I mean, I don't know, like a healing effect reduction, a triggered healing effect reduction, perhaps a debuff, maybe not a debuff. Oh, there's things that happen when you leave combat. Inscriptions could perhaps do things when you leave combat. That could be a thing. I guess there's a gathering related things. They could add load boost on an inscription, gathering speed. I guess siege unit stats. Oh, yeah, when I said attack, defense, and health, those could be generic, but those also could be unit specific. They could also break it down that way. Ooh, speed of range gained. That's almost certainly on an inscription, right? That's got to be in there. I mean, as I just cruise through the commanders here and just look at some of the abilities that are on them, it seems like there's just so many different things. And I don't know if it's just going to be stat-based stuff. I don't know if it's going to be, like triggered crazy stuff that could be out of control. I covered skill damage already. Instant proc damage we talked about. Load. Oh, rallied army capacity boost. Could be a thing. I mean, that's mostly for hitting cities, but to get to 100 things is actually like pretty tricky to do that. There's shielding effects. Charlemagne's got shielding effects. That's a thing. There's rallied army. Oh, rallied army attack, defense, health. Okay, so you could get that as a stat. I don't know, man. There's a lot of different things that these buffs could have. So I'm as curious as you are as to how this is going to go. Leave your thoughts down below in the comments for what you think about this system. If it's done well, it could be really fun and add a lot of strategic diversity. I just really worry if, sort of like was the case with equipment, on release, there's probably going to be a really big gap between the people who just wail like crazy and the people who don't. But I honestly am in the dark. I don't know anything more than you do. I've shared everything I've known. Throw a like on here if you enjoyed it. Consider subscribing. As soon as I have more information, I'll share it with you. And if you want to see more information about the formation system, card will be at the end of this video. And I have a ton of other videos I also referenced. You can tap the little info button at the very top of this little YouTube video to see any of the videos I think you might want to watch.